Hello, my loves. Welcome back to this week's episode of I Think I Need Therapy. I hope you all are well. I do want to start this episode off with a bit of a warning. I will be going into topics of partner violence and sexual assault, so if those are things that might be triggering to you, as always, please do what's best for you. Take care of yourselves. And if you do decide it is too much, you can just skip to the end where I'll leave a few nice messages for you all just to end the episode off with. But let's just get right on into it. As some of you may know, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and as we're coming to the end of the month, I thought it was a perfect time to come on and talk about this stuff and talk about these issues, especially because in one of my classes, we just actually finished a unit on gender-based violence, and it's very disturbing, but it is also empowering to know that, there's a lot that can be done, and there's stuff that we can do as a society to change the rates of these crimes. Actually, they are crimes, and they're far too common. They're insanely common, and it's disturbing how often violence occurs within relationships and how normalized it is. It's not okay, and there's a lot that we can change about that. And so I wanted to come on today and just spread a lot more awareness around both the topics of sexual assault and intimate partner violence. So with that being said, I want to share some statistics with you guys because we talked a lot about different ones in our class, and they stuck out to me. I was like, you're kidding. It shows just how prevalent these issues are and how fucking common they are. Pardon my language. But also by doing my own research, I found out so much more about just how, common it is. And even given these stats are still crazy, there is a lot of these cases that aren't reported. And a lot of individuals who are victims of these crimes or survivors may not even realize that they are. And I know some people might not be able to comprehend, how do you not realize? But when you're in a situation like that, it does sometimes become hard to actually realize that it is violence and you are, a victim or survivor, especially in cases of sexual assault. Sometimes it's tricky to actually identify and accept too. Some of them you just don't even want to accept. And so, yeah, let's just get right into the statistics. Annually, domestic violence is responsible for over 1,500 deaths in the U.S. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men have experienced violence by an intimate partner in the U.S. Around 20 people experience physical or sexual violence every minute, which is more than 12 million people per year. 12 million people a year. 1 in 3 girls around the world have been subject to physical and or sexual intimate partner violence, non-partner sexual violence, or both at least once in their life. Approximately 15.5 million children are exposed to domestic violence each year. That's children. And then 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys are sexually abused before the age of 18. 50 to 75% of high schoolers reported that they know other teens in violent relationships. And then women between the ages of 16 and 24 are the highest rates of intimate partner violence. And that's just all of the reported stuff. Typically for all violence, it's 1 in 4 or 1 in 3 women. And when you put that into perspective, that's you're sitting in a classroom full of 40 people. 10 people in that classroom have experienced some sort of partner violence or sexual assault. 10 in a classroom. Having been through this and also knowing so many women in my life who has also been through it, it's sad. And knowing how much pain it puts a person through, it's just cruel that we have to live on with this while abusers just get to walk the streets and, live their life. while victims and survivors have to live their life in such suffering and pain because of some act a man did to them, or not just a man, a person did to them. Yeah. I do want to take a minute to describe what domestic violence specifically is and give you guys a real definition, because I think like we have an idea of like, oh yeah, like someone's hitting you, like pushing you and whatever is obviously violence. But I have my little handy book I got from my school. It's all about domestic violence and everything, and I thought it was super handy. This describes domestic violence as a pattern of behavior used to establish power and control over another person through fear and intimidation. Domestic violence can take different forms. Abuse can be physical, sexual, emotional, psychological, or economical. At the center of it all, forms of abuse is one person in a relationship exerting power and control over another. It can happen to anyone, regardless of race, social, economic status, sexual preference, age, and gender. People who commit or experience abuse can be any gender. And with that last statement, I think it's really important because we perceive abuse to be a man abusing a woman, which, yes, is definitely the most common in what I'm mainly going to talk about today, but also men can be sexually assaulted. Men can be victims of abusive relationships and can have their girlfriend abusing them. We were doing an activity in this class actually last week, and we got to go through like the stories of different people and how they experienced intimate partner violence. And it was basically like a choose your path. So it was like we had like James' story. I'm just making up a name. It was like James' story, and we got to go through it. Like it described the situation. It was like, do you want to call your girlfriend or do you want to go to work or something like that? And basically we got to decide and then go follow that path and then make more decisions and whatever. Just follow his storyline of his abusive relationship, basically. I completely forgot his name. I just made up James. But there was one we went through that was a guy, and he was in a toxic relationship with a woman, and he tried telling his friends, he tried telling people and be like, yeah, like it's not good, like there's like stuff going on. This girl literally put weights around her waist and jumped into a pool because he was on lifeguard duty, just to get his attention and just to see if he would save her, which he did. But anyways, he tried telling people and they were just like, no, like, what do you mean? She's rich, she's beautiful, like, you have a girlfriend, like, you should be lucky, like, it's not that bad, like, just put up with it, like, you're a man, blah, 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 blah. And I feel like men just, like, when they are abused or even when they're sexually assaulted, their stories aren't heard. These type of stories aren't heard. And a lot of people won't believe you or victim blame so much. And I think it's important just to note that like any gender, even transgenders are at the highest risk of some sort of violence in general. Anyone can, and when someone comes to you with a story of like they are a victim of some sort of violence in any type or abuse, just believe someone when they tell you, just hear them out. But if you are either in this type of relationship, if you're getting into a relationship, if you're friends with someone in a relationship, there's a lot of different signs, there's a lot of different things you can look out for just to see like if there's signs of abuse or any like red flags that are coming up. So I'm gonna list some of these off to you. Does your partner embarrass or make fun of you alone or in front of friends or family? Do they put you down about your accomplishments or goals? Do they make you feel like you are unable to make a decision? Do they use intimidation or threats to get you to agree with them? Do they tell you that you're nothing without them? Do they treat you roughly, grab, punch, pinch, shove, or hit you? Do they call or show up to make sure you are where you said you would be? Do they use drugs or alcohol as an excuse for their behavior? Do they blame you for how they feel or act, gaslighting you, manipulating you? Do they pressure you sexually? Do they destroy or lie about birth control or protection? Do they make you feel like there's no way out of the relationship? Do they prevent you from doing the things you want to? Do they keep you from friends and family? Or do they act in one way in public and another way at home? I know some of these we can be like, well, that's like fine, but a lot of these different little, like, it's the little things. It's not even like, oh, they punched my nose in. Like, it's these little things of power and control over you in a relationship that can lead to a point of them hurting you a lot, and it just like being very, very toxic. I think also, like, when we think of abusive, we think of physical, but like I said, there's economical and emotional and psychological. Like, those are just as real as physical abuse, even though we can't see them, even though there's not a bruise on me, or there's not a very clear scratch across my face, or my nose like isn't clearly broken. Like, emotional, psychological, economical abuse is still, sexual is still just as important and just as harmful as physical abuse, if not more. Some other things you can look out for if you are a victim in the relationship is, do you sometimes feel scared of how your partner will react? Do you make excuses to other people for your partner's behavior? Do you believe that you can help your partner change if only you change something about yourself? Do you try not to do anything that would cause conflict? Do you feel like you're walking on eggshells around them? Do you feel like no matter what you do, your partner is never happy with you? Do you always do what your partner wants you to do instead of what you want to do? And do you stay with your partner because you're afraid of what your partner would do if you left? When you are in these types of abusive relationships, it is so hard to leave. As much as it seems, like I said, from the outside, like, just leave, it is so hard, especially when you're looped into it and emotionally. Like, it's hard for you on one hand, but it's also hard because a lot of the times, if they are this manipulative kind of person, they will literally threaten you if you leave. It's like, if you leave right now, like, I'm gonna kill myself. Like, if you leave right now, like, I'm gonna come and find you. Or like, they start stalking you. They might start calling your friends, your family members. They might start doing all these things to get you back, or like to get back at you for leaving them. And it's really scary and life-threatening. A lot of these people, a lot of these abusers prey on people who are in vulnerable positions. It makes it easier for them to think that they can manipulate you and get into your life and just control you. There is this power and control wheel we learned about in this class as well. It's in this little book too. I'm gonna let you guys see this. I hope you can. It really just helps to understand like the patterns of abusive and violent behaviors. It's mainly like a lot of the things I listed before, like using coercion or threats, using intimidation, using emotional abuse, using isolation, using male privilege, using economic abuse, all of these things. It just lists how an abusive partner can control and maintain control in their relationship. It's important to know these signs, and it's important to know like what red flags to look out for to prevent it from happening to you, and also to, maybe you're in a relationship and you don't even realize, or maybe you have a friend who's in this type of relationship and you're like, look at these things are going on. You need to realize like this is an abusive relationship. Because I think also when we have this idea that abusive relationships are only physical, I have a hard time understanding when we're in an emotionally abusive relationship, because we don't think of it as abusive, because they're manipulating you and gaslighting you, and you're just like feel all the blame on yourself, and that can be hard to take a step back from and be like, wait, whoa, this is abusive, this is not right. And it's hard to identify, but I think it's really important to know the signs and know these things to be able to identify it, because once you identify it, then you can really learn like, okay, what can I do? And the next step is wanting to take action and wanting to change things. And then after that, like figuring out like, okay, how do I get out of this toxic, abusive, manipulative relationship? And some ways you can do that are just by first understanding what your options are, making a plan, like make a safety plan. I know these can be very intense, like life-threatening scenarios leaving, so you need to be able to like safely leave the relationship. So making a safety plan, knowing like in your community if there's people out there who can help you. I know there's a lot of different shelters and things like that in every community. If you have family members or friends or anything like that, if you figure out who in your community, who in your life you can tell about this violence and who can help you to stay safe after leaving, that is really, really the key. People who you know you can contact when this person shows up again, if they do, have people you can contact and be like, can you call the police, like, or have an like emergency signal that you send to them to indicating that like that your abuser is near. But plan. I advise you to plan and make sure that you will be safe before leaving rather than abruptly leaving, because even if it seems like you're in the relationship and it's like fine, like me, you won't be at risk of your life, you never know. You never know, and it's better to be safe. It's better to be safe and make sure that you have everything, all of your belongings from this person's house, from around where this person is. If you leave anything with them or anything like that, just make sure you somehow start collecting them before you leave. And then make your plan and safely escape as well as you can, as best as you can, or end it in a way that you think will be best for you. But know that there's people out there and there's people in shelters within every community that can help. As I shared in those stats, like, it is common. Women and trans people and people of color are at high risk of violence happening to them and occurring at least once in their life. So knowing what to do in those situations is so important, especially those in financial struggles, who are having financial struggles. Not everyone has the money to just leave, and I understand that. Like, sometimes the shelters are full, sometimes people have kids when they're in these relationships, sometimes like they're dependent on their abuser financially, and it can be extremely hard to leave when it's in that sort of scenario. And even what I also think isn't talked about a lot is sexual assault and rape within married partners, because it happens. It actually happens. And I think a lot of people just ignore the fact, like, oh, like, people, they're married, like, why would a partner rape the other? Or why would there be abuse there? But there is. And a lot of times, especially when people are married, like, one can feel like they're in even more control over their partner because, you know, you have this legal tie to each other and it's harder to escape, and you're tied together, and it's like, well, they're my person, like, I can just like have sex with them whenever I want to. But no, you still need consent, you still need to have human decency, you still need to respect and care for your partner even though you're married. Like, that doesn't allow you to just abuse them and take advantage of them all the time, you know? When we look at the bigger picture, though, all of these issues are not just random. They're rooted in deeper, like, societal and political structures. These are issues rooted in a culture that tells men that they have to dominate, that women's pain is just dramatic and we're just sensitive beings, and that queer people just are not humans and don't matter. In a society and culture that says these things, it leads to more violence and more abuse. The way media glorifies and sexualizes women, the way schools and laws don't take these issues seriously when they're brought up. The silence we are given when we bring up these issues just protects abusers. And the way it is portrayed and accepted in political and in the law sometimes contributes to this ongoing issue. And I know there's things like Title IX, the Violence Against Women's Act, the Clear Act, But even with these, there are greater factors which contribute to this ongoing issue. And even though maybe, yes, like these are huge things to change, but if we just look at the things we're interacting with online and look at the way we are speaking with people around us and having conversations about things, like, it can be less normalized. And the stereotypes and the victim blaming and the myths, we can change that. We can change that all just by being more self-aware and being more aware of the way we speak and everything like that. Like, some of the stereotypes that I've noticed that also contribute to this are towards particular racial groups. Like, Black women are stereotyped to be hypersexual, and that has led to them being taken advantage of a lot sexually. But that's a stereotype. Like, who said all Black women are hypersexual and want sex without consent? No women want sex without consent, okay? There's other stereotypes that women are submissive and men have to be masculine and aggressive and dominant. There's also a lot of myths when it comes to sexual assault, like people crying rape just to get attention, like people coming out about rape or assault just for attention. It didn't actually happen. We're just sharing these things for attention and for people to feel sorry for us. No. And a lot of these other myths are so focused around the victim and victim blaming. You often hear people being like, well, what were you wearing? Like, you were asking for it. Like, obviously you got into bed with them, or you were wearing a crop top and a skirt. Like, obviously you wanted to have sex, or you were drinking. Like, or when people first come out with their sexual assault experiences, common responses are, first asking them, well, what did you do? Even in domestic violence, even in these like partner violence, it's like, well, what did you do to make them act like that? What did you do to make them act that way? What did you do to make them upset? It's like, no, I did not do anything. Their actions, their behaviors are their responsibilities alone. They chose to do that. They chose to act that way towards me. They chose to hit me. They chose to assault me. They chose to abuse me in that way. They chose to act violently. I did not do anything to make them act that way. And when we put this victim blaming, it literally allows the abuser to do those acts. It like minimizes the fact that the victim and the survivor is going through their pain and has experienced those things, and that it was wrong. I did want to note too, with sexual assault, majority of times it happens within people who are in a relationship, or between two people who know each other or are acquainted in some way, which makes it even harder, because when you know the individual, it's hard to come out and share your story around it. And it's hard because, especially in relation to the intimate partner violence, it's hard to tell people who know the abuser, because it's like, well, are they gonna believe me? Whose side are they gonna be on? Like, a lot of times we can't point out abuser on the street. They just seem like a normal person, and when they're around other people, they know how to act. They know what to say. They know what to put on a front. But when you go home and you're alone with them, it's completely different. So sometimes when you tell people who know your abuser, it's scary. It's scary, because what if they don't believe you? What if they're like, oh, well, they're such a great person, they would never do that. Well, they did. They did. Pornography is also a huge issue, and it also heightens a lot of sexual assault, because porn is shown to be very male dominant, with a male dominating and being in power and making all the moves, and the woman just like being submissive, and it's not realistic. Pornography is not realistic unless you watch like the right form of porn that is. But majority of it that people actually watch and enjoy is aggressive, male-dominating sex without consent. and it's not healthy. And when we don't have proper educational systems around sex, then this is how people learn. This is how young boys, this is how young females, this is how young individuals learn what sex is through porn. Obviously, when it comes to the time of having sex, they're gonna just be like, oh, well, this is what was shown in, like, in that video. Like, that's just what it's supposed to be. Like, this is how it is. And they think it's okay. And for a person who is a victim or a survivor, it's hard to understand that that's not okay, because that's what you're seeing all the time. That's how things are portrayed. That's what's normalized. But then it's like, well, why do I feel so uncomfortable? Why do I feel like that was wrong? Why do I feel taken advantage of if this is the normal thing? And it gets confusing. And if porn could just be more realistic and healthy, I think it would help for a lot of these sexual assault cases to come down. Or even if just people learned more about what safe, real, healthy sex is, it could help these cases come down as well. But honestly, in the end, what we can do to help lower these numbers is if you hear someone who is victim blaming, if you hear any victim blaming comments, or if you heard any of those myths or stereotypes I gave to you guys, like, if you believed any of those and you were like, oh no, like, but women are meant to be submissive, like, men are supposed to control the girl, I think it's just being aware that, like, society has programmed us to believe these things and made these things normal, and trying to change that and changing your beliefs around these stereotypes and myths, and realizing what reality is. And if someone comes to you telling you, like, they have been abused in some sort of way, whether that's sexually, whether they're in an abusive emotional relationships, whether they're in economically abusive relationships, physically abusive relationships, any violent kind of relationship, if they come to you with that information, just believe them, hear them out. Just hear them out, because they're most likely not lying. And they're trusting you with that. So don't blame the victim, okay? It's not their fault. Even if they did things, even if they continue to go back to that person, it's not their fault, okay? The perpetrator, the abuser, chose to act the way they acted. That is on them. They are the guilty ones. They are at fault, not the victim, not the survivor. And it can be super hard and challenging and so emotionally damaging for someone to go through these types of relationships and experiences. A lot of people don't share these types of stories, so just be kind to everyone around you. You never know what someone's going through, and if they're in this type of relationship, you don't know. So just be kind to everyone around you and believe someone when they come to you with these type of stories. If you are someone who's been through these experiences, I am so sorry that you had to go through that. You're not dramatic, you're not crazy, you're not broken. It wasn't your fault. You survived, and I want you to know that I am so proud of you for surviving, and I'm so proud of you for being here and for healing. If you're scared of dating again, I feel you. You're not broken though. You're not broken, and know that it is so much more difficult to date after these experiences have happened, but you're not broken, and you deserve a healthy, secure love. And you are so brave. Know that. Be proud of yourself. And now you know what the red flags are, and it can be so scary thinking that can happen again, but know that someone will treat you with the right love that you do fully deserve. And if you have gotten out of that type of relationship, abusive relationship, know that you didn't waste your time. I know it can feel like you wasted like however many months or however many years in that relationship, but be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself. You didn't waste your time. You saved your own life. You did. And forgive yourself for not knowing. And forgive yourself for going back if you did. Forgive yourself. You are here now, okay? And you are so strong. And I'm so, so proud of you. And I send you all so, so much love and light today. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to this episode. I will see you all again next Tuesday. Bye, guys.